So Travis Kelce proposed to Taylor Swift, and she said yes.
They're engaged.
Where were you when it happened? Where were you when you heard the news anyway?
So I was having lunch with some coworkers, and one of them he glanced down at his phone. He's like, Travis and Taylor are engaged, and I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. Was not expecting it.
Were you excited? What were you feeling?
I am pleasantly surprised. There were rumors, I don't know how long ago, but like that they would eventually break up, and celebrity couples, it tends to end that way, but I'm very happy.
Yeah, and Taylor is known as the queen of breakups, and she's written many of her songs about breakups, and she's good at that, but it's nice that she's in a relationship now where it's made it to the next step, engagement, which is engagement to be married. So yeah. We're pro-marriage, we're pro-family, yeah. So I think it's good news.
It's very good news. I think it gives people a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm. You have a daughter who's a junior in high school.
Yes.
And we talked before the show. You said that it was a buzz going around the school.
Yeah. So neither of us, we would say, call ourselves Swifties, but both of us got consumed in the news, and we're both pulling out our phones, looking on Instagram for the pictures, and you want to know all about it. You want to get into their love story. What's their story a little bit more? And, we all love happy endings.
Yeah. And we don't have a royal couple in the United States. Beyonce and Jay-Z kind of take that title, or have in the past. And now I think Travis and Taylor are next up in terms of celebrity couple who people look to and pretty much for the most part. And the Travis thing is important, I think, for us in Cleveland because he's from Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
And he loves Cleveland, by the way. He's always talking up our town.
Yeah. I would even, in terms of celebrity couples, you can go back a little bit further. I grew up loving Faith Hill and Tim McGraw. They are the power country couple, king and queen of country. They would tour, Soul to Soul tour, where they have duets together, but they are a long-standing couple with a happy marriage. Not that it wasn't pleasant all the time, ups and downs, but they've endured.
Yeah, and that's the hope for Taylor and Travis. I don't think anyone wants to see this thing fail. So let's talk about some of the good that comes from this news. And yeah. I'll start by saying, if they're getting engaged, that means that marriage matters, because they could simply say, we don't believe in marriage. We just want to live together. Who cares? That doesn't mean anything. It's just a contract. It's just a piece of paper. Doesn't matter to us. It certainly matters, because there was anticipation. Is he going to get the ring? Is he going to propose? And he was the one who proposed to her, not the other way around. So that matters too. And you even said you saw the pictures. It was in a garden.
Yeah.
So there was a deliberate stage set for the proposal to take place.
Yeah, I laughed a little bit because the morning after I had the news on in the morning, and local here in Cleveland, they have Travis's dad on, and he's like, yeah, they got engaged 2 weeks ago, but we knew it was coming, and she was getting nervous or anxious about when is he going to ask, when is it going to happen? And that just brought back feelings, because I was the same exact way before my husband proposed to me, when is it going to happen? But seeing the pictures and seeing it in a garden, for us as Catholics, it was very sacramental to me, brought me back to the garden with mm-hmm. the first marriage with Adam and Eve.
Yeah, which is a natural good of man and woman uniting for the sake of perpetuating the human species, right? Mm-hmm. So even though neither one of them are Catholic, I think they're both Christian. I know from Taylor's Christmas album that she knows who Jesus is and has written about him. I don't know where she stands in her faith right now. And Travis, I know he's not Catholic, but I don't know if he was raised Christian. I presume he was. But I did post hey, if you're interested in becoming Catholic, now's the time. I mean, we have over 20 coming into the church this year at St. John's Cathedral through our OCA process. So just putting the invitation out there for them. If you're interested, contact me and we'll get you connected with the right people to learn more about our Catholic faith and see if that's where the Lord's leading you.
Yeah, and it's nice to see, just because they are in the news everywhere. Like as soon as they started dating, all of the Kansas City Chiefs games, they'd always pan to her in the crowd, like where's Taylor? But they've only dated for, I'd say, a couple years, and so to get engaged now, that shows like there is an end to dating. Like, what is the goal of us being together, of us dating? We could even use the term courtship. Like, is this someone I see myself spending the rest of my life with?
Yeah. I'm thinking that on the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis has two teammates who I put a lot of hope in, and then a brother. So his older brother is Jason Kelce, who played for the Philadelphia Eagles. And Travis really looks up to Jason, and Jason corrected him when he was kind of going astray early on in college. And Jason's won, I think, at least one Super Bowl, and they were up against each other in the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs won. But I remember Jason Kelce saying, the best thing I ever did isn't playing football, it's getting married and being a dad. And I thought, that's really good, because if your little brother's looking up to you, then you're realizing you've got a good model and a good example to do this. Patrick Mahomes is a pretty devout Christian. I do know that. And then Harrison Buckner, who's the kicker for the Chiefs, who's probably the best kicker in the whole league right now, is a devout Catholic and likes to serve the traditional Latin Mass. Yeah. So he's got good guys on his team who can give him some good advice and guidance. And we all need that. We need people who have been there before to share with us what this thing's all about. So I have hope.
Yeah. And we can see there's a little bit of a trend of like delaying marriage, or like we need to get everything in order before we do it. And I think in trying to order our lives the right way, like marriage is a foundation, and it's not that you have to find the perfect person who has everything all together, their ducks in a row. It's a journey together where you both as husband and wife are willing the good of each other, and you grow in that maturity and your faith in your lives together. A couple decades ago, marriage was seen as the foundation. It was like the beginning of your adulthood, and you're doing it with someone. You're journeying along with someone who will make you a better person, and you live for that person, and together you mature and grow in your faith together.
Yeah, I have read the critique that now that I think Taylor's a billionaire and Travis is, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he certainly has a lot of money. So they're both at a place where they've accomplished all their young adult goals, and now this becomes the culmination of young adulthood entering into more mature adulthood. That is problematic because, like, as you say, marriage is a foundation, and these things can go together, and it could be a deterrent to other couples, like young people saying, oh, I don't know if we could get married yet because I haven't done all these things. And I guess one of the things we can say here is that you certainly can enter into marriage, and ought to, when you feel called to the vocation. Like I felt called to seminary when I was 18 years old. Not everybody's called to seminary at 18 years old. Some people are delayed vocations, but I went when I was called, and you got married younger too, right?
Yeah. And I think to just expand this idea a little bit, the different senses of vocation that as Catholics, like our first is called to holiness.
Right.
Then our primary vocation, whether that's the priesthood, marriage, consecrated life. Then our daily vocation. So that's like our work and other things that support our primary and then our universal vocation. So we kind of see a trend of these different senses of vocation being almost out of order.
As a married woman, like go back to when you were married, you had probably some concerns, some stressors, and I prepare a lot of couples for marriage. You worry about the wedding day, you worry about the families getting along, the cake, the DJ or the band, and all those things that are going on, when the greatest need is to actually prepare not for the wedding day, but for the marriage itself. And that's just for normal, everyday Joe and Janes who are getting married. But you add all the pressure. It's already hard, seems to me. I don't know. I'm a public figure, but I'm nowhere near a celebrity, where Taylor Swift blows her nose and people are going through the garbage to look at the tissue. It's disgusting. But it's hard for them to do anything without people studying them and taking pictures of them and photographing them. So this is a pretty sacred time in their life to prepare, to give themselves away in married love for each other. And it's So as hard as it is for an ordinary couple to do this, that's not constantly in the spotlight, your biggest pop star in the United States and one of your better athletes in the NFL, but all that added pressure too can be really tricky.
Yeah, for me, with marrying Phil and saying yes to his proposal and dating Phil, it was, my dad had given me advice when I was seriously dating another guy, and it was like, what qualities do you see in him? Do you picture yourself spending the rest of your life with him? And, almost kind of like practically looking at some things, not falling into the emotions of it. And when I started dating Phil, we actually were friends for a whole year before that. We met playing softball together, and we were just friends. Then a year later, he asked me out. We started dating, and I got to know him and his family. And he had great qualities and he treated me well. And we dated for a year then, but we had talked about marriage pretty early on. So we knew that was the end we were working towards. So it was almost discerning marriage and then discerning marriage with him. And when we started planning the wedding, these were a lot of things we already talked about, like, how do we want to do things together? What kind of, do we have the same taste in things? And other than picking the hall, which my dad was very adamant about, and the type of way food would be served and all of that, plated versus buffet or family style was a big thing for him, because our parents pitched in some money.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty easy deciding everything, where we did get to focus on, this was the beginning of our lives together, not just a day.
Yeah. What I'm going to say now, it will be highly controversial, but it's also true. And that we as Catholics do battle against a lie that's told that somehow marriage is like a fairy tale. You fall in love, you just find the right person to fall in love with. Those feelings are really strong, and then everything after will be happily ever after kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's bull feces.
Yes.
And that's the kind way to say it. It's not true. And it's not true because falling in love is not true. And that does happen, and emotions happen. But what also happens in marriage is you can fall out of love, meaning that the feelings that were once strong can fade. But that doesn't mean that the love fades, because what happens when a couple gets married is that they make a promise to each other that no matter what, good times, bad, sickness and health, rich and poor, I'm here for you. I'm not leaving this thing. If my feelings like elevate, or if they decline, or whatever happens, I'm here. And that's what love is, because that's how Christ loves his church. It's like, everything I have, it is yours. I receive that, and everything I have is yours, and I have that too. And so there are not a lot of popular romantic love songs about that. Yeah. And it's understandable, because most of the time there's got to be some attraction to somebody, and there are feelings that come with it. But once those feelings fade, and they do, and they may come back, and there are some couples that have said, we've always been in love with each other. I don't know if I believe that or not, but that they've never had a fight, or maybe. If that's the case, God bless you, and you have special graces. But most people go through it. And it happens in the priesthood too, where there's times I wake up and I don't feel like being celibate or obedient or praying my office. But I do those things anyway, because those are the things I promised. And I know that when I keep my vows or my promises keep me. Or married couples, when they keep their vows keep them. And that's a really important thing to consider, especially because we live in a culture that wants to say, as long as the feelings are there, you stay. But if those feelings ever leave and you can't, then love must be over. And that's not true.
Yeah. As you were talking, those feelings you were talking, it reminds me of what Pope John Paul II calls the raw material. Yeah. Like there's that initial attraction, those initial feelings. And through those, you develop and grow into the relationship. And it's every day you have to choose to love that person.
Yeah.
In the good times and the bad, when you're angry with him, when you're annoyed, when you don't want to speak to him, all those times.
Not that you're speaking from experience, But it's similar to our relationship with the Lord and the church too, in that most people, if they have an adult conversion, so maybe you were raised in the faith, but there's probably a time in your life where your heart was won over and you fell in love with Jesus. I mean, I remember I was 18 years old when that happened in my life. And he was my friend for my whole life, but then he became the center of my life and my best friend. But there have been times since where I'm like, what are you doing to me? I can't, you're killing me here. And it's been very difficult. Although I will say it's by staying faithful through those difficult times that I think I've grown as a priest and as a man and as a disciple. And I imagine that's what's true in marriage too. When you make it through hard times together, and even though you don't want to do it, you do it anyway. It's like, I don't feel like working out today, but I do it anyway. I don't feel like praying today, I do it anyway. And in doing those things, going against sometimes the feelings, which is very anti-culture, we don't let our feelings lead us. We don't ignore the feelings or deny them, but we can also go against or with or appropriate them, and that's where we find true freedom. So when we're thinking of Travis and Taylor here, there will be times when things will be really hard, and you hope that they say, okay, this is really hard, but we promise that we'd stick together through this. And when you do that, man, you find like more freedom. You find yourself actually falling deeper in love because you've gone through really hard stuff together.
Yeah, because it's through this like engagement period that they have now that they will be forming their identity and their mission as a married couple. Like every married couple has a mission. They should have something that they're united, that they're working towards. In Catholic marriage, we're working towards heaven,
right?
And how the married couple together will be fruitful in their marriage.
And this is why, if you look at the cover of almost any Catholic bulletin of any parish, it'll say, if you want to get married here, notify us 6 months in advance. Why? Because we take marriage prep so seriously, so that we don't just say, oh, you want to get married, go ahead. Well, let's have you talk about all these important things so you know what you're getting yourself into, so we can give you the helps you need when you do struggle, when you do suffer, and when things do get hard, that you say, oh, I don't need to quit. This was expected, and we can work through this. Or if there's areas like finance or communications or leisure activities, I'm thinking of the Prepare and Enrich now, where people need some help, we can give them assistance. And then maybe you get a mentoring couple. So we pray that Travis and Taylor have some good folks in their life. Is it Jason's wife? Is that Brittany, or is that Patrick Mahomes' wife is Brittany?
Brittany Mahomes.
Brittany Mahomes. But they have two good friends, and then Buckner's. Maybe they'll do some.
There you go.
Pre-Cana with them.
There you go.
Because I don't think they're getting married in church. They could eventually, though. They certainly could, if they want. But there's a lot of good that can come out of this. Even the fact that we're talking about this. Mm-hmm. And marriage is on the front of people's minds, and engagement, again, like they don't have to do that. They could just say, no, we're just going to live together the rest of our life. They want to get married. So marriage means something.
Really just reiterating and expounding on my initial reaction is that I'm very happy for them. And I think it shows hope, and there should always be hope. And I think their commitment to each other it's a visible sign. Mm-hmm. And it means something.
My job in the diocese is tell good news, and I think it's good news, and I hope it continues to be good news and get to be even better news. And God willing, that they start a family, raise some children, and make the world a better place. And if they decide to become Catholic, the water's warm, come on in.
All right.
It'd be great to have them. So thanks again for listening to our podcast or watching our podcast. Please subscribe, like, whatever all that takes. Get the word out, because we really want to share the good news with as many people as possible.
Thanks, everyone.